Del Fuegos tour. It's been termed Loud Vacation.
Yes, I think that was my brother's material there, and that's what it is.
You guys are just kind of getting together to have a little fun?
Get something off our chests. Yeah, everybody has jobs. We're the lucky ones amongst many of the rock bands out there, in that we've all had second lives and we need to return to them. And I don't think anybody wants to do this full time, and I'm not sure that the world wants us to do it full time. So it's a couple weeks, and it's a lot of fun.
You said it's like unfinished business. What didn't get done?
I don't think we had as much fun as we should have. I think we were young and we had lots of internal obstacles to get past before we could really start enjoying it. I think we just needed to go out, and whoever needed to hit a bottom and come back and be able to experience it with a little more purity. I think we were quite capable of getting in our own way, and we knew how to rock, but we didn't know how to enjoy the rocking quite as much as we do now.
Once you got back together after so many years of no Del Fuegos, did you experience any kind of psychological regression and kind of just end up back where you were?
Yeah, there's, you know, just like families when they get together at Thanksgiving and everybody gets in the kitchen, they're there for about 5 minutes before everybody starts acting like they did when they were in junior high, and the misbehavior kicks in. And bands, as has been noted so many times, bands are like families. So put them in the same room at Thanksgiving and they regress at the speed of light. And we experience some of that, but we all have some tools that allow us to deal with our misbehavior in a different way. So we don't take it quite as seriously. We know how to sit in the timeout chair.
You all have other things you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, my kids. The other day I skipped the rehearsals because I was with my boys and I wanted to stay with my boys. But you know, 7 a.m. What was it, Wednesday morning? A tour bus backed down our street, and you know, my sons came out and they checked it out. They were still in their pajamas, and they thought, "Wow, this is really cool." And they admired it for all of 10 minutes, and then you're just a dad again. You know, you're just a dad. And so after all this is done, just a dad.
And since the Del Fuegos, you've done quite a bit too. You're like 2 masters and a PhD.
We have 2 PhDs in the band.
Wow, doctors.
Yeah, Tom got 2 out of 4 are PhDs, and the other guys, they're just not capable of it. They would if they could.
One of your masters is in visual communication.
Visual and cultural study.
How do visual and cultural studies inform you as a writer, as a solo artist? Like,
I mean, I think school and that line of school in particular just made me more aware that we live in a world of symbols. You know, when we get dressed in the morning, we're involved in a kind of grammar. We're making a statement, and we may do it on a somewhat unconscious level, but we're constantly putting symbols together. We're digesting symbols, we're creating symbols. And in school, I started to become more aware of these things and more aware of my own thinking and how it was shaped by the culture in which I live. So all of that comes into how I write songs. It comes into how I parent. It comes into, you know, how I am as a partner. It touches everything. If you do school right, it will change you top to bottom. And I think I didn't do it right in high school, but when I came back, you know, maybe by virtue of having been in a rock band for 5 years, I did it right, and it changed me top to bottom.
Now let's talk about your songwriting. Very well rendered, very nicely done, sophisticated pop music. And I was wondering, what kind of songwriting influences are you bringing to the table?
Well, in the Del Fuegos, we really were in the Rolling Stones model. When I first joined the band, Dan got me. I wasn't even playing guitar, and he said, "Well, you're going to play guitar when you join the band." So I joined the band. He got me a copy of the Rolling Stones Now, which is an early Stones album when Brian Jones is still in the band. And I love that stuff, and I always will love that stuff. But I'm also a Beatles guy. Dan is less of a Beatles guy. And what I draw from the Beatles is that craft, and it's the pop craft. And I write in such a way that you really know when you're going to a chorus. You can feel the sections of the song, and I think that's one reason that people will, if they're talking about my solo stuff, they'll talk about craft because they can hear it. They can hear the architecture in a different way, and that's just what I've liked. You know, I like a lot of the classic pop writers, and I lean toward that, and you know, and the chords change a little bit from, you know, what the Del Fuegos territory to mine. I feel like I can, I don't know, I guess in anyone's solo work they can travel a little more widely than when they're with a band.
And now you've got 3 solo records out, first being Memory Girls, then we've got People What I'm Wrong For, and I Want to Move Out in the Daylight, the new one. And it's been described as being more of a midlife record, dealing with adult issues.
I call it my midlife record, I call it my divorce record. You know, I get less ambiguous about it, and now I'm just calling it my divorce record, but it's definitely, it's the midlife thing, and I wasn't planning on getting divorced. It was not anything that I wanted to happen, but when it became a kind of inevitability, songs came. You know, and I really relearned that lesson that, you know, art is there to do many things, but one of them is to save people's lives, you know, to save them from going under. And it was really, it was a lifeboat for me, and I wrote a lot. And there were a lot of things I couldn't do because I was so troubled with my family breaking up. And my kids are pretty young, and it was just the last thing I wanted. And songwriting really carried me. And I wrote more than I've ever written in a concentrated period of time. So going in and making that divorce record was a great experience, and just reminding me of what art can do for a person, but also having a bushel of songs is the best way to come into a studio. And we had demoed up 35 songs, and we took an odd approach in that we, prior to recording anything, we sequenced the record. Just listened to the demos, and we created a sequence and said, let's make this record. And we changed it a little bit, but really that framework was there. You can only do that if you have a ton of songs. But times of joy, times of pain, that's when the songs come. And
this album pretty much lays you out naked for everyone to see what you went through as a person, as a fellow human being. How are you pulling the courage out to actually share that with all of us?
I don't think it's courage. I think I think it was more of a mode of I just had to do it. That was my way of dealing with this. You know, I'm from the school of thought where if you're going through something, you find somebody who's going through something similar or has gone through it, you tell them your story, they tell you theirs, and you go away feeling less alone and feeling better. And one of the examples that I bring up is when I moved into my new house and I was getting it ready. You know, it was going to be me and my 2 boys, so the 3 musketeers in this house, and I was setting up the yard so that my kids didn't escape. And the fence guy was there. You know, we're standing there talking, and we have nothing to relate to with one another. He's like, you know, so tell me so I can know what kind of fence to put up. What is it for? And me being a guy who was talking to everyone about what I was going through said, well, you know, it's for my 2 kids. I'm going through a divorce, and you know, it's like, you didn't need to know that, obviously, but that's just the way I was operating. And he just kind of stopped everything for half an hour and told me his divorce story. And some of the stuff this guy, who I have no way of relating to him otherwise, was the most valuable stuff that I got from anyone. You know, so it doesn't take courage to put it out there. It's just smart to put it out there. But culturally, we've got this idea that this is somehow shameful stuff. You know, you don't talk about it. It makes other people uncomfortable. Whatever. We've got all these reasons not to talk about this experience that half the population is going through. Like, divorce is so prevalent. So, you know, to me, it wasn't courage, it wasn't duty. It was just me saving my own ass by doing what I do. When something's tough, find somebody else, hear their story, tell yours. So this was me telling mine.
Earlier you mentioned sequencing on the album, and I kind of think you ended up in the right place, because for me, with the opening song Walmart, you're kind of in shock. And then Throughout the record, we go through all these different emotions and all these different things, and some of it's anger and some of it's depression, and there is some humor in there. I love the 3 p.m. bathrobe. I've been in one. I've never actually thought to title a song about it. Or the opening line, I read a self-help book.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we go through all your emotions and everything that your grieving process has, and then we end up with a song called That's All There Is, and it sounds like a release, like you've come to terms, and now your divorce has become a worn shirt. When it gets thin, you trade it in.
It's funny, not everybody was ready to record that last one, and I felt the need to do it. And, you know, sequencing is one of the under-discussed arts of making records. The order you put the songs in, you can make 1,000 different records with the same set of songs. So really thought about it, and that release was key, because you can either repress or you can deal with and move on. And the reason to repress it is that the dealing with and moving on is tough, and it's not fun. And, you know, some days you feel despair, but if you repress it, it's going to come out in 1,000 other forms. You know, you may go, you know, kick your dog, but it could get a lot worse. So I feel like, you know, write the songs, deal with the stuff, and get to the next happy chapter. And, you know, that's kind of where I am.
The next chapter, the future, of course, as Joe Strummer says, is unwritten. Mm-hmm. So what may be next for you?
Wow, I got a lot of projects that I got to finish. Now I'm like, I got to finish things mode. But my project, The Little Steven, is really important to me. That's a middle and high school history of rock and roll curriculum. My work with Tom Petty is really important to me. And I've got this whole new batch of songs that are all love songs. And I really feel like I was writing really good stuff. I was writing for a very particular woman, and it started with me. She was on her way to work, and she was late for work, and it was raining. She was having a bad day. And I just took my iPhone, used a voice memo, and wrote her a song in like 5 minutes, just after she'd told me what was going on, and I sent it. So it was like an immediate musical response to her situation, and she'd never had anyone write a song for her, like most of the world. And then I just started writing songs for her, and over a couple of months I wrote 26 songs for her, and I just thought, wow, some of these are my best songs I've ever written. Because again, I was like, I couldn't not write those songs because of the way I was feeling. So there's a record out there too.
Keep us informed.
It's a deal. We'll meet here in a year, man.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom.